Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the April meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Are there any public speakers?
No, there are no public speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if I could have the approval of the minutes from March 23rd, 2015. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Committee work plan, Mr. Stewart?
There are no changes in the work plan.
Thank you. We'll move on to the presentations. New York City Transit Capital Program update. Nadish Patel on Signals and Train Control Division.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Nadish Patel, and today I'll brief you on the status of several projects in the Signals and Train Control Division. The Flushing CBTC project will provide CBTC operation on the entire Flushing line, including the 34th Street 7-line extension. Project modernized Times Square and First Avenue interlocking, modified all other interlocking to accept CBTC technology, also installed CBTC equipment on 46th train supplied under separate contract with the Kawasaki. This contract activity have no impact on opening of the 7-line extension. We also have completed all the installation activity between 42nd and 34th Street to avoid any need of track outage immediately after the opening of the extension. Project is scheduled to achieve substantial completion by the second quarter of 2017, same as I reported last time. On the project cost, we are tracking trending cost implication associated with the revised service plan supporting the CBTC Flushing project. Service diversion costs have been trending higher due to the combination of ridership adjustment, which have added Q trains and additional buses, as well as added support cost for projects allowed to piggyback the outage. We are analyzing the recent costs incurred and will report to the budget impact on the next update. Since my last update, a good progress has been made. We have placed the First Avenue and the Hunter Points interlocking in service, and we also started the CBTC functional testing. Over the next 6 months, we will continue to install CBTC equipment on Kawasaki supplied modified car. These installation activities are done in-house by Department of Car Equipment, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for doing it very effectively and efficiently. This installation activity will continue until the September 2016. In service of 74th Street interlocking has been delayed to the fourth quarter of 2015 because of the track outage coordination with other work on the Flushing line. But this delay will not impact the current substantial completion date. We are also planning to conclude CBTC functional testing, and the system will operate in a shadow mode and to prepare for the CBTC commissioning on the Flushing line. In order for the preparation, train operator training will start, and the testing of automatic train supervision system will also commence. The project completion date of second quarter of 2017 is dependent on certain required track outages. We will continue to monitor the track outage availability so as to mitigate any delays as a result of denial or cancellation. The next project is a CBTC Culver Line Integrated Test Facility. NYCT has awarded this contract to the Siemens Thales in September 2011. This project provides a final CBTC interface and interoperability specification, an integrated test facility at the 2 Broadway here, an integrated test facility on the track B3 from Church Avenue to 7th Avenue on a culvert line. And at the end, we will have a 2 proven CBTC supplier with their interoperability system. In addition to this, it also provides a new speed measurement system, DigiMove, for entire Canarsie line. All the activity related to CBTC integrated test facility are on schedule, and the project is within the budget. Good progress has been made since my last update. Facility testing is satisfactorily concluded, and we are testing the interoperability of the 2 systems on the culvert test track line. Also, yes.
We have seen a schedule for installation of CBTC, obviously on the 7 and on the Queens Boulevard, if capital program. When is the rest of Culver scheduled to get CBTC, just out of curiosity?
Culver, actually, we are hoping right now in a 15 to 19 program, we have a project to do the automatic territory on the Culver line.
From where to where, sir?
Actually, we can do from Church Avenue to the Avenue X.
Okay.
But if the money is provided from the Sandy project to do the Avenue X, and also if the QBL is funding actually all the trains, E, F, and MR, so the trains running on the Culver line is the QBL project. So if we get the money under 1519 to do the decommissioning of the Ditmas and the automatic territory and the Avenue X, we can do that portion of the CBTC. So in the next 6 months, we are completing all the testing. We will start the revenue service of DigiMove on the Canarsie line, and we are also doing the retrofitting of the remaining train on the Canarsie line also.
Question. If you're doing this test on that express track, which trains don't normally use, between 7th Avenue and Church Avenue, and you were just talking about 15 to 19 plan, it would be installed from Church Avenue down to Avenue X. What happened to the 7th Avenue to Church Avenue portion, if that's where you're doing the test now?
You can still use the test track for next 30 years, because that's the goal.
But only that track, not the other.
No, that track will be placed in revenue service. This track will remain as a test track. We're not going to place this test track for revenue.
So does that mean the return, which some politicians have called for, as well as riders, for the return of McDonald Avenue Express service cannot happen because that track is always going to be a CBTC test track?
No, Andrew. What we're describing as the test track is we've selected the one express track between the limits of 7th Avenue and Church to install the field equipment that we use to test the multiple suppliers. So what we have not done is create the entire length on all 4 tracks for CBTC utilization. It's just that one segment of the express track. So it doesn't interfere with our strategy as far as the F-line service from Queens Boulevard all the way down. No. Again, we're very flexible. Having an express track as far as when we use it for testing purposes can be on nights and weekends and not interfere with any service plan that's done for the rush hour.
Good. On the critical milestone, the first issue, the current plan is to complete all the testing on the culvert test track by July 2015. The only reason I raise here that this is mainly the software contract, and if you find any software issue, we may have to fix that problem, and that could delay. For the second issue, the current goal is to place in service the new speed measurement system by July 2015. Similar thing, this is a very software oriented. I want to make sure the safety is correct and the endurance is also right. And if I find any problem, which I should not, because we already corrected almost a lot of issues for last 6 to 9 months. So hopefully we will stay within the milestone and the schedule. No problem.
there are still some R46s running on the F line, so those aren't CBTC ready, obviously. Only the 160s would be CBTC
That's
ready.
correct.
That's correct, right?
That's correct.
So you're only running, obviously, the 160s over the test track to gauge
Right.
its-
When we roll out the CBTC, it will be based on the fleet availability with the equipment installed. The R160 will be the first large fleet, the onboard equipment.
So under actually the QBL,
And we will be procuring cars going forward with the equipment on board, right?
that's correct, right?
That's a
R211
change
will
in the
come.
policy. So the 211s, the 179s will come equipped with, yes.
And that's the key, because you'll reap the benefit, the safety benefits immediately by having the equipment on board.
And we save money by ordering them as one unit, including the CBTC, rather than adding it on later.
Yes, we expect to have a lower cost.
So the next project is the CBTC equipment supplier interoperability. We currently have 2 qualified CBTC supplier, and under this project, we will qualify at least one more CBTC supplier. This contract is in a procurement phase. Negotiations are ongoing, and we are projecting to award in June 2015. The next project, Queens Boulevard Line CBTC Design and Furnish. CBTC will be deployed on the Queens Boulevard Line in 2 contracts. Under this contract, CBTC supplier will design, furnish, and test CBTC on the Queens Boulevard Line. And this contract is also in a procurement phase, and negotiations are ongoing. We also conducted the risk assessment, and it's ongoing. The workshop has been concluded. Details will be provided to you prior to the award of the job, which is scheduled for June 2015. Yeah, the supplier, the next project is the installer. So
That's the second.
under the first project, we are just doing the design, furnish, and testing. And the conventional installer like LK Comstock, TC Electric, Mass Electric, those people will install all the system and do the regular installation work. And that is this contract. Under this installation contract, a conventional signal installer will install all the CBTC equipment and support CBTC testing and in-service on the Queens Boulevard line. In addition, they will also provide conventional signal work and perform removal of the existing signaling system. This contract is in the design phase and is projected to award in the first quarter of 2016. And this is the money coming from the 15 to 19 program. This contract and the next 5 contracts I have listed here are all major state of good repair signal projects. And all these contracts are on schedule and within budget at this time. The schedule of some of the project may get delayed because of the Sandy River tube work impacting the availability of track outage. We have been monitoring and adjusting contract activity as required to avoid delays, and we are successful so far. Any question? Okay.
I think what's a little confusing is what he did is he gave a presentation on the one contract for the 5 interlockings. Make sure that if you've got any questions on the interlockings, that now's the time to bring them up. If not, we'll go to the independent engineer's review. Jerry Gardvitz?
Good afternoon. On the CBTC flushing line, based on the 2015 GEO schedule and the information that we're aware of, we agree with the projected 2017 substantial completion date. As far as the budget, it is on schedule. We're also aware of the budget trends, so we'll look into that information as that develops. The critical highlights an issue. Again, the geo availability is the key to the progress, as the agency has noted. The first half of this year, there were two cancellations. Of the geos, and that has affected some of the work. The CBTC car equipment installation is on schedule. The contractor has submitted a plan to increase the installation rate if warranted. We concur with the progress as stated and it has been completed to date. The look ahead follows the activities planned for the period. On the Culver line, there are no issues with the schedule and budget. Again, on the critical issue here is the start of the formal interoperability test, which is a field demonstration on the test track. And by May, we should be able to determine whether that will go forward. A delay in the start date will, of course, delay the substantial completion date. That's all I have. And, oh, I'm sorry, on the interlockings. The status of these reports was reported in the fourth quarter traffic light of 2014 at the March 2015 CPOC meeting. Each of these listed interlockings achieved a green status reporting, so we have no issues with those interlockings based on that status. We did not cover Church Avenue as that one has already achieved substantial completion and it's off our list here.
In summary, I'd like to make a couple of points. Obviously, the signal program is one that is both state of good repair as well as enhanced because it provides additional capacity. For those elements of the system, we can't really lengthen platforms or lengthen trains, so we're going to have to do it with increased throughput, which can only be delivered with communication-based train control. When the program was first put together over, I guess it's 2 decades ago, a decade and a half ago, it's been a while, the idea was to deal with the individual lines that didn't interact with the entire system, and you did everything at one time. So you did the cars, you did the interlockings, and you did the wayside equipment, the CBTC equipment itself. We've morphed to a different place in time. We're actually buying cars with that equipment on. We're accelerating the interlocking program so that we can install the CBTC and then take advantage. And I'm asking the organization to look at ways in which it may even be able to accelerate the schedule over that which is in place right now. The only way we're going to be able to absorb additional customers on lines as they grow without outright expansion of new lines is with CBTC. So this is one part of the program we're going to have to hold exceptionally near and dear to our hearts and make sure we get the funding for it. So, Carl?
With this work being done at the factory, it's a real time saver too, and probably economically it's better because the train's apart and they can put it together.
Well, there's a whole host of reasons why it's better to have the cars come equipped. The first of which is, from a risk exposure, the car builder make sure that the integration is done right. It does come, we don't have to take the cars offline to do the retrofit, and it actually accelerates the schedule in a holistic way.
Very good.
As I was looking at this list of interlockings, it occurs to me that the Roosevelt, the 34th Street, the West Avenue are all the F line. Is that line going to get really overly impacted? These are all happening at different times, I assume.
Well, it's all necessary work as we work our way down, but the F line will benefit as being the first terminal-to-terminal line that has the CBTC and the rest of the B division.
So is it anticipated that all of these interlockings will be going at the same time?
No. There's a
Sequential.
schedule that shows the progression down Manhattan into Brooklyn.
And most of the work that's done when you're doing interlockings is done weekends and nights, and you restore service. So it will impact on weekends and nights. But we'll try to hold the rush hours harmless. The functionality of countdown clocks for the B division.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Debbie Chen. I'll be reporting on the ICE&B program. Some of you may be familiar with this slide. It sets the context and identifies the purpose and high-level objectives for the ICE&B program. The diagram shows the relationship between the ISMB program, and the long-term goal for the B Division of centralized monitoring, control, and customer information at the Rail Control Center. ISMB represents an interim step that will provide consistent and timely information about the current state of B Division service to both staff and customers. This program, interlocking control will remain in the field, but train location and identification information will be available to the Rail Control Center and field staff. The program will also provide real-time train arrival information, initially via mobile apps, and customer information signs at all passenger stations on the B Division. This slide shows the overall schedule for the ISMB program. This program is organized into various modules. Each module may be implemented by one or more procurement contracts. In my presentation, I'll talk about the first 4 active modules in the program, giving you a project description, schedule, and estimated project cost information. And I will also provide some of the benefits that may be achieved during interim milestones of each of the projects. Module 1 is an IFB contract. It's being advertised this week with an anticipated award in July. As part of this contract, the contractor will install PLCs at 26 field locations, and RTO operators at the Rail Control Center will be able to track and monitor all trains on the B Division. Starting at the end of December 2016, train location information will be available at the Rail Control Center for initially the first 18 towers. And since some of these master towers are part of signal modernization projects, 8 master towers will be available sometime in mid-2017. This project is slated for substantial completion at the end of 2017. Module 2 is in design. It will furnish new speakers and customer information screens for the 21 stations on the Flushing line. It will also expand the existing public address customer information screen system that was built for the A Division. Data from the Flushing CPTC automatic train supervision system will pass and expand the existing PACIS system to display real-time train arrival information at these stations. And in order to ensure a seamless integration of the public address customer information screen and CPTC systems, Module 2 was broken into 2 separate procurements in order to have at least 6 of the stations built before the Flushing contractor was done with their work. So the first procurement package for this module will be awarded at the end of this year. Module 3 is also in design. It's an RFP contract slated for award in third quarter of 2016. This module is mostly a software development project to procure a new rail traffic management system for the B Division with installation of remote field workstations at approximately 44 locations. This project specifies 2 software milestones. The first software build will provide schedule-based service information and next train arrival data so that we can provide this information for countdown clocks. And the second software build will deliver secondary functionality. The first stations that will be able to utilize the data for countdown clocks is contract W32697, or what we call PA89, which is currently in construction. This project is slated to be complete in 2017, installing new public address system and customer information screens at 89 B Division stations. Initially, the CIS will provide static messaging until such time that the Module D data becomes available sometime in 2019. Module 4 will provide station infrastructure to deploy system-wide public address customer information screens to the remaining B Division stations that are not part of any ongoing capital contracts. Initially, the system will provide the data to mobile apps, and as stations are built, this information will become available to the signs at each of the passenger stations. This module is currently in the planning phase. Right now, we anticipate phase 1 to design, construct approximately 50 stations, and the Phase 2 part of the project will design and construct the remaining 128. The funds to design all of the remaining stations is currently available, and we are proceeding with these designs to give us maximum flexibility to construct as many stations as we have funds for. We will also be leveraging new technology where possible as we roll out our designs. Previously, the board had requested us to identify ways to advance countdown clocks on the B division. Interim train arrival initiative is an attempt to do that while we're implementing the office system being developed as part of Module 3. There are currently 3 lines on the B division, Concourse, West End, and Sea Beach, that have modernized signaling for which the data already resides at the Rail Control Center. So by extending 2 existing New York City Transit system, we'll be able to undertake 2 parallel efforts. One will be accomplished by our in-house software development team, and the other will be done via a task to our ATS maintenance contractor. Within a year, we will have 35 stations on these modernized lines added to our MTA Subway Time, which is our internal app, as well as the MTA website. And when the stations that are part of the P89 project are completed, 22 of these 35 stations will also provide real-time train arrival information on customer information screens at those stations. That concludes my report.
Mr. Merdler?
I understand the wisdom of centralized control, but is there a redundancy factor provided, for example, if the central control system goes down, that some other portion of the system could take over?
On both the centralized control of power substations and the centralized control of operating trains, the fallback position is to master towers on the signal side and substations on the power side. So in answer to your question, yes, there's a built-in level of redundancy, but it would require staffing, putting people out in the field to actually run that. But in the master towers, we're going to have personnel there, but maybe less than what we would need to run in the event that we lost the control center. Am I basically right on that?
The redundancy will be in the equipment, of course. You'll have multiple servers and equipment in the field location, but it will come into a central location, which is our rail control center.
My concern is illustrated by the following. You have a fire in the central place that makes the redundancy on those premises unavailable. Query, is there anything we should be doing or could be doing that would provide automatically, if at all possible, a switchover, or would the cost of that be prohibitive?
Well, I think what we're trying to explain is that the way the information comes in from the field, first on the signal side, are from track circuits on sections of track through a master tower. We used to have over 200 towers. We now have, I think, 30 master towers. Is it 30? 30. And then that data is then transmitted to the rail control center. So if the rail control center were for some reason not to be, you couldn't operate from it, you would revert back to those 30 master towers and control the movement of trains throughout the railroad, which is the way it was when we just had a command center at 370 J Street. And on the substation side, it's the same thing. The substations are all automatic. They're controlled from a similar location yet to be, no, it's been determined. We just don't talk too much about it. But if we had to, if we lost that facility, we could control from individual substations. Yes, Andrew?
In the case of this interim train arrival information, 9th Avenue to Stillwell on the D and 8th Avenue to Stillwell on the N are outdoors, but 145th Street to 205th Street on the concourse line is all underground. Are we going to have cell sites in those stations in time for this, for sure?
The reason why those locations were picked is because the data already from the field resides. It's already brought up to the rail control center. So it's just a matter of
But
taking
you're talking about mobile apps, and your mobile app is only good as if you have cellular or Wi-Fi service underground in the case of the concourse line.
Well, it'll be available through cellular service for smartphones.
In the station, in the transit in the station environment through the transit wireless.
Through the
contract.
transit
That's what I'm
wireless
asking. Will Transit
program.
Wireless have wired the concourse line by 2017?
Yeah.
It should be close,
Right now,
yeah.
Transit Wireless is slated to be complete mid-2017.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So obviously, you will have B division arrival time on your smartphone before you will have it hanging in your station, most likely.
That's
Probably.
correct.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I mean, we've even had a dialogue in terms of, you know, it's very hard to predict where technology will be with communications 5 or 10 years out. But there are devices that we relied on as recently as 5 or 10 years ago on a communication front that are the throwaways now. We don't even consider them. You know, there was a thought in time back in when the first cell phones came out that people, when they were close to being born, would be given an electronic device that they would have for their whole life. We haven't quite reached that point
No.
yet, but we may at some point in time. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the Systems and Security Division. That's going to be presented by Mark Beanstalk.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark, Program Officer for Systems and Security. And this afternoon, I'd like to talk to you about two major projects in my program area. The first project is the upgrade of the VHF radio system, which is used by train personnel and train operations. The contract was awarded to Alcatel-Lucent in February 2012. It will install new radio base stations throughout the subway system. The base stations are required because the existing radio system is beyond its useful life, and we need to be compliant with the FCC narrowband mandate, which is the new project goal. The project is currently 50 days behind its overall substantial completion date. Senior management has met with the contractor Alcatel-Lucent, and Alcatel-Lucent has submitted a mitigation schedule to meet the original date and comply with the extensions granted by the FCC. The project is currently within budget. To date, we have placed in service 13 of the VHF base stations. We've completed installation at all the outdoor base stations, as well as at the Rail Control Center and Backup Command Center. Over the next 180 days, we'll complete cutovers at the remaining outdoor base station locations and complete installation of the dispatcher consoles at the tower locations and dispatcher locations. What you see here are 3 photographs of the type of equipment that we've installed. The photograph on the left is radio base station cabinet equipment. That's the equipment that goes in the field locations and contains all of the radio base station equipment for the field. The larger photograph on the top right is the equipment we've installed at the Rail Control Center, and on the bottom photograph is the equipment that we've installed at our Backup Command Center. We have a milestone for beneficial use of the 26 outdoor base stations and 8 transit bureau locations. We've had some technical issues related to the installation of dispatcher consoles at these locations. That issue has been resolved, and we've worked a plan together with our operations and maintenance people. The contractor, as I said earlier, has submitted a mitigation schedule, which requires the cutover of 2 base stations a week. And I'm pleased to report that since we received the schedule 3 weeks ago, they've actually cut over the 6 required base stations. So far, with the mitigation schedule is being implemented and is working. The next projects that I'd like to talk about are related projects, and they're a new radio system for bus operations for New York City Transit as well as MTA Bus. The first project is the Bus Command Center, and under that project we'll design and build a new modern secure bus command center for both New York City Transit and MTA Bus operations. Outfitting that project will be the second contract, the Bus Radio System Project, and that project will install the new radio system for communications between all of the buses as well as the command center. This is a rendering of the new Bus Command Center to be located in East New York, across the street from our existing East New York bus facility. You see here the project schedules for both projects. The Bus Command Center is an IFB, and that project will be awarded at the end of June. The radio system project is an RFP, and we're currently reviewing proposals. And since both projects are in the procurement phase, I can't give any more procurement details.
IEC project review summary, please.
The IEC will comment on the VHF radio project only. NYCT correctly states the project status and issues. There are no budget issues. On this slide, I have presented a snapshot as of the end of March. And as from this information, you can basically see that there's work to be done. We have 70% of the time has elapsed, and we've done 45% of the project. Again, this is a snapshot as of the end of March. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this on the next slide, the project status review. We mentioned that NYCT has achieved all the 180-day look-ahead that were stated in their October presentation, except for the beneficial use milestone of the outdoor sites. That was moved from March to July. The delay in part is attributable to a ramp-up of work leading up to the site cutovers and the actual steps involved in switching over to the new equipment. There has been an improvement in the process, so this improvement has been mentioned by Mark in the cutovers at this point. Much of the work that is in place for increasing the cutover rate and achieving BU for outdoor sites is in place, and so July 2015 is not out of the question. But based on the progress to date, the IEC believes that there will be a delay of 1 month to this substantial completion date. That concludes my remarks.
Are there any questions either of the IEC or of Mark? If not, we'll move on to the New York City Transit Track and Street Program. David Knights.
Good afternoon. I'm David Knights, Chief Officer Track. Today I will be presenting on New York City Transit's Track and Switch Capital Program. New York City Transit's Track and Switch Capital Program is accomplished by using well-trained and knowledgeable in-house forces, the benefits of which has allowed us to rehabilitate a significant amount of track and switches, as well as the installation of continuous welded rail, also known as CWR. In the early part of the program, huge investments were made in order to bring the mainline track into a state of good repair. We have, We have maintained state of good repair to date. We have reconstructed approximately 382 mainline track miles and 1,227 mainline switches. Since 2004, we have reconstructed 30 miles of continuous welded rail. The production levels in the 2010 to the 2014 Capital Track Program include 56 miles of mainline track, 126 mainline switches, 3 miles of yard track, 29 yard switches, and 8 miles of CWR. As part of the first quarter of 2015, we have essentially completed the 2010 to the 2014 program with the exception of 8 mainline switches, which will be completed later this year. The scope for the yard track program was increased slightly, resulting from track identified as reaching its useful life in 3 yard car washes. This work will be done in coordination with a planned car wash rehab project. Funds were reallocated from the yard switch program to address the increase. The 2010 to the 2014 capital program will achieve substantial completion in December of 2015. In an effort to reduce administrative support costs and better coordinate with other planned capital work, we have expanded the track program from an annual program to 2- and 3-year programs, i.e. 2015 to 2016 will be one program, and 2017 to 2019 will be the other. Using the condition survey and track access data currently available, the 2015 to 2016 milestone goals have been planned as indicated on this chart. The 2017 to 2019 milestone goals are being planned in coordination with other construction and consideration of track access. The program includes an aggressive pace of installation of continuous welded rails, which is being front-loaded into the first 2 years of the capital program. Track engineering has identified 5 corridors of concern that require an accelerated pace of installation of continuous welded rail. The benefits obtained from this program include increased reliability, elimination of water conditions, track life, reduced noise, and vibrations. In 2015 and 2016, a significant amount of continuous welded rail work is planned in the 8th Avenue and Queens Boulevard corridors. These two corridors have high ridership and the highest million gross tonnage of revenue service. This picture depicts CWR and scheduled component renewal work that was completed by in-house forces in the Greenpoint Tube to take advantage of piggybacking opportunities with the Greenpoint Tube Sandy Capital Project. This is another example of the coordination effort by in-house track program, which increases productivity through shared track access, minimizing support costs and customer impact. To more clearly elaborate on our efforts to address rail breaks with the installation of CWR, this chart illustrates the amount of track miles where CWR has been installed over the past 10 years. Whereas programs, we have averaged approximately 3 track miles per year. Note, in the first quarter of 2015, we have already installed 3.7 track miles of continuous welded rail. Since 2004, we have installed approximately 33 track miles of CWR. In 2015 to 2016, the mainline track program and CWR program includes 18 projects budgeted at $721 million. We are currently in the process of finalizing the milestones for the 2017 to 2019 track switch and CWR capital program using the results of the condition surveys and in consideration of track access opportunities. Of the 18 projects planned in 2015 to 2016, the largest projects are on the 8th Avenue and Queens Boulevard corridors. The funding allocation of the mainline track and switch reconstruction work under the two projects include approximately $126 million for the 8th Avenue line and approximately $132 million for the Queens Boulevard line. Approximately $153 million is allocated for the installation of 13 miles of continuous welded rail also in the Queens Boulevard and 8th Avenue corridors. These projects account for $411 million, or approximately 57% of the total 2015 to 2016 program budget. Packaging the work by corridors is being done in an advantage of piggybacking opportunities with other capital projects and the Sandy Recovery Resiliency projects. We are continually exploring more efficient methods of executing the track switch and welded rail program to achieve high productivity at minimized cost.
David, when you say the 8th Avenue line, what are the limits?
The corridors, we go from roughly from Chambers Street all the way up to 207th Street for the corridor, and Queens Boulevard out to 179th Street. Mm-hmm. Finally, this slide illustrates the reconstruction of 4 switches referred to as a diamond crossover located north of West 4th Street on the 6th Avenue line between tracks B3 and B4, completed the weekend of March 21st, 2015. This work was done in conjunction with the signal modernization of West 4th Street and 6th Avenue interlocking project as earlier presented by Nadish Patel. This is another demonstration of the efficiencies of having an in-house track and switch capital program that can be flexible and work with other projects. And this is some of the work that we've done. There's a crossover at Linden Shop that's going to be installed south of 75th Avenue on the E and F line. This is at our Linden Shop facility in Brooklyn, and we call this being placed on the rack. This is another picture of the same interlocking showing the diamond pattern or the diamond crossover. Again, this will be installed on the E and F lines. Here's a switch renewal of 75th Avenue that we did earlier this year on the E and the F line. Switch installation on the Nostrand Avenue, north of Nostrand Avenue on the 2 and 3 Eastern Parkway line. Again, Nostrand Avenue on the 2 and 3 line. Crossover at Smith and 9th Street on the G and F lines. This is an what we call Icky-Hilton renewal with continuous welded rail on 34th Street and 6th Avenue on the BD and F and M lines. South of Atlantic Barclay Center, another Icky-Hilton rail renewal on the DN and R line. And scheduled component renewal work on South and Northern Boulevard on the M and R line. They're showing continuous welded rail with the new type of plate that we're using. The RF plate has heavy resiliency. And 90th Street on track panel replacement here, we've installed concrete ties and continuous welded rail out on the A line. And that includes my presentation.
Well, you saw in the presentation the pictures of what was built out at Linden. They build the entire crossover in place, and then you cut it off into sections, and then you ship it out on flatbed by way of the rail system, or on the underground you have to do it that way, right?
Correct.
But if it's an elevated structure, they can take it out and then hoist it into place. The Iki tie blocks those are African wood, right? It's a very hard wood. And how much of that have we put in the system?
Couldn't tell you off the hand.
Not that much.
Tom,
But we're
we
still
put-
testing
small-
from a
small
standpoint of what generally goes with a track structure underground, even though you've got that type 2 construction and you've got the good concrete invert to carry the water away, are the rotted wood ties. So I think they're trying with the Iki ties to see if they can get longer tie life out of the ties. But you see the level of quality of the construction, it's really pretty good, and they do an excellent job. The other crossovers you saw were replaced in kind in place, right? The ones on the IRT?
That's correct.
What's your total workforce in terms of number of employees?
About 600 personnel in track construction.
And you got midweek RDOs, and you work nights for the most part, right?
That's correct.
So those are productivity issues that we're trying to get at the other 2 rail agencies, but you have to work through collective bargaining agreements to do it. Any questions? If there are none, then I think it's capital program commitments and completions.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I refer committee members to page 56 of your agenda for listing of commitments and completion report. Also, on page 70, there's a risk assessment on the Hudson Line Sandy Restoration Project conducted in the 4th quarter. If there are any questions, Metro North personnel are here to respond.
Okay, I think that concludes the business for the meeting. So if there are no further issues, I'll ask to adjourn. Second, any comments or questions? Adjourn. Thank you very much.